Welcome to the February 12th bhyve production user call. We have Alexei, Dan, Roman, Gibran, Hans, Ed, Katya, John, and myself, Michael, so far. And Alexei, you are, after posting your EDK review and getting it committed, you're finally getting some bug reports that should have been hopefully in prior to posting. And I understand there's a newer version of EDK2 from, was it October? What can you tell us about these recent tickets that have rolled in?
Um, there is a ticket about failing to build it on some strange build environment.
Guessing this one.
I have no idea about this one, but it seems like it's fixed by just setting a single environment variable. And another one is about a person not being able to boot Windows Server 2008.
R2. Okay.
Yeah, this OS is older than me.
I love that. And I trust any sufficiently advanced user is keeping the old firmwares around, and it raises the
Yes.
question, should we just version
Uh,
them and have as far back as people need to go?
Yeah, a
Um,
person has said that it works fine. Like the last version of EDK2 that works fine is 2025.05, and it has broken on 2025.08. So it seems like it's an upstream bug.
hmm.
I can try taking a look at the code, but I really don't want to add a patch that is going to stop working after some time, and I don't want to commit to upstream because from what I know, it is hard.
Yeah. Fortunately, a lot of things have made it up. Thank you, Rebecca and company, but it's an external moving target. So I understand you shipped August, was it? And since then,
Yep.
November has shipped. I have notes here somewhere. Uh, that's my notes from our discussion. Okay, and then what would the one that's current was previously in ports for just bhyve firmware? That was, I understand, pretty
Uh,
old, such as
That was
2023.
2023-11. Let me
Okay.
remember. That was actually, let me find the exact one.
So while we're blessed by a whole bunch of users and folks like Ed Mast, can we come up with a policy here of what we think people would want, be it numbered versions, and you can go back to day one,
2023-08.
2308. Thank you for that. Um, and luckily, it can be challenging to build such it's just a binary that might be lying around with an unknown origin at some later date, or we track it aggressively and deal with issues like we're seeing, or something else entirely. Any thoughts or feedback, everyone? I don't have an answer. Is why I'm asking.
It's just packaging like two separate versions, like a legacy one and the current one. Have an
Okay.
EDK2 like dash legacy dash bhyve and EDK2 dash bhyve, something like this.
Yeah, but then we have to throw a dart at the wall and pick a legacy that is 2023, 2025, 2025 again. How do we define
2025-05
legacy?
seems to work correctly,
Okay.
but we could just use a super old one like 2022, but that is even harder to compile.
Did that have the CSM support, which some people
Yes,
think worked great? Great.
that did have CSM support. But wait, can't we do CSM support? Actually, no, I was confusing something else.
As far as I know, CSM support is removed from the repository in the latest version.
Yeah, the CSM support has been completely removed
Okay.
from the source.
It's no
Well, yeah.
longer not built by default.
So, Ed, you could best say if we have some, software bomb and reproducibility and proper hygiene on where things come from. If older versions are impossible to retrieve and build, do we officially not support them simply because we can't talk about their, is it provenance or some proper term? I'm all ears because we have a challenge here of years worth of upstream EDK2 and question of how to best provide it to users in a responsible way. What's your magic
Yeah,
wand say today?
that is a great question. I mean, I think, that is something that I've been involved in, and the foundation's been funding in FreeBSD itself. For ports, it's sort of like shrug emoji. EDK2 in particular is its own special snowflake. I am not I don't have any great advice or even serious thoughts on how to solve this. It would be great if we could.
Uh, Question from the perspective of be it PostgreSQL, MySQL, or PHP, or something with lots and lots of versions. What's the most longest list of ridiculous versions you've ever seen that's like, hey, here's, 8 versions of Postgres or MySQL or PHP or something because users somehow need that and someone's willing to maintain it?
Yeah, I mean, we have a great example of that just with the number of LLVM versions
Oh,
we ship, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's we've
okay.
got like 7 or 8.
so
Oh, so we're better off than LLVM. That's great.
I mean,
times light.
What was that, Jan?
Well, we have the so and so LLVM, and then we have the so and so LLVM port. So the packages have about the same build dependencies. So basically, the Podia bulk runtime has just doubled, so that users can install a slightly smaller package.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, EDK2 specifically, right? Its
Yes.
build process is a bit baroque. It's yeah. So it's particularly hard to do this, I think, for EDK2. I think at the end of the day, though, you know, we want. We want reproducibility. We want to be able to build EDK2 from source. But we also just kind of want to have EDK like it's okay in some respects if it's a binary blob that just is what it is and works. So yeah, that doesn't really get us any closer to having a solution either.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't like the binary blob approach because that reminds me of this utility called Ventoy you can use to
Oh,
multi-boot
yeah.
ISOs on a
Yeah.
USB. The creator of it has used so many binary blobs that he now cannot even reproduce them anymore. Like he
Yeah,
took,
I mean, it's even worse for that one, right? Because he needs to
yeah,
build he needs to build artifacts for like 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever different operating systems. So, I mean, really, the right thing for us to do, or for the community in general to do, is to have an EDK2 build process that is reliable and repeatable and functional and runs on multiple operating systems. Um, are we, can we cause that to happen? I can't say.
Who owns EDK2? Is that yeah, I won't even
Tiana
speculate.
Core?
Tiana Core, and they are independent. They are under, was it Intel
I
who's
have no
pushing?
idea.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no, that shouldn't be a question. We should be really clear on that. Okay. Well, but who is Tiana Core? Uh, okay. And to its credit, FreeBSD is pretty good about allowing you to preserve old build environments, be it jails, be it whatever, be it VMs. But you also have to remember, oh, I'd better grab those upstream binaries while they're still available because they may fall off the truck of time. Um, I sense that we agree there's a problem at hand. Thank you, Alexei, for stepping forward to try some builds because everyone else just kind of threw their hands up and thought, well, hey, I got it working. I never want to see that code again. Uh,
Yeah.
Dan, who I do want to introduce in a sec, but can you describe briefly your process on uh, what you said about downstreaming, was it? What was the term you used?
Hi, sorry, I put a bunch of stuff in the
Oh, I
chat.
see that.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, sorry. Because I didn't want to interrupt the conversation,
Okay,
but this
don't be
stuff.
sorry and go ahead and introduce yourself. I know you've met
Hi,
some of our Illumos
my
people here,
name
but
my name is
yes.
Dan McDonald. I'm in the Illumos core team. I am the SmartOS project lead at the under the Triton Data Center project, which was owned by MNX, is now known by Edgecast Cloud. The ownership chain there is just completely foobar, but yeah, we still have that. And Illumos has distros. It's not quite like Linux where like libc varies between them, but there's a picture I can show. If you visit my Mastodon profile, my pinned post explains it. Anyway, OmniOS builds EDK2, the version we pin. We have a downstream Illumos version of EDK2 that most if not all distros ship. We in SmartOS ship it as binary blobs. OmniOS builds it every time they generate a release. It's in their OmniOS build repo, and that's the one we use. It has no BIOS in it. We ship a BIOS one from 2014 because that was one that was able to get built and actually worked. And that is one we're like, don't touch. But the UEFI only one, we're trying. We find a version, we freeze on a version, we try and get all the distros to do the right thing there. But that's a separate repo in the Illumos project, and I put a URL to it.
Yes, I'm dropping that in there. Oh, well, I see a
Yep.
Triton URL or different. I'll
The
drop it
Triton
over in my
URL is
copy.
what we do in SmartOS.
Okay,
And
cool.
we tell you how to build UEFI on a SmartOS build zone.
Got it.
Yeah. Little quick background for those of you who don't know Illumos. Um, OmniOS
Oh,
is the closest thing. OmniOS or Open Indiana are the two that are closest to FreeBSD as far as the whole WAD, a main global zone that is encouraged to do real work. SmartOS is more like a hypervisor that uses Illumos. Its global zone is not supposed to be doing a lot of work apart from managing either native zones or virtual machine zones, like bhyve zones.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, so SmartOS, you usually build up a native build zone where you can do stuff. And for our EFI build, our UEFI builds, I built one. Yeah, the README file talks about that.
That's in this link, the EDK, UEFI EDK2 and get GitHub
Nope.
Illumos.
The
No,
SmartOS
maybe I
way, the
missed
SmartOS
one.
one is in the bhyve README file.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so this,
That's how
oh,
we build it in SmartOS.
got it. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Oh,
Omni just does it as part of their OmniOS. Omni just does it as part of their turn the crank to generate an OmniOS release.
okay. Well, I don't think we'll solve this today, but half the battle is
No.
understanding the problem. So thank
I'm
you.
trying to show you there are multiple
Yeah,
ways to
sure. No,
put this.
absolutely. Um, I it's not like I was at FOSDEM and went to the Core booth. Maybe any of you did. I don't know if they have any sort of meaningful community engagement, but the whole idea that it's this black box that frustrates a whole lot of people is not super inspiring, but we rely heavily on it and we need some kind of policy here. So awesome. Any other topics on EDK2 and moving forward, especially production users, be it John or I don't know,
Well, the
Roman,
problem with
Jan?
building the old EDK2 versions is that the build systems requires Python 2.7, which, okay, I think FreeBSD still provides the support, but also GCC 4.8,
Okay.
which is so dead
Yeah.
that FreeBSD doesn't even have a port for it anymore, I think. So unless we bring back that undead GCC version, you just can't build it because the old release doesn't build with newer GCC versions, at least not into something that actually works. I think there was some code which, yes, you could build it, but it wouldn't work if you build it with GCC newer than Fallout 8 or, yeah.
So what was, do you recall the version? I think you mentioned a second, 4.7
For
hypothetically.
8, I think, was 4.8.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So as a user, what I would do is just not lose the last copy of the blob, but that's no sustainable approach. It's just yeah, I can always add that package file because it doesn't have any dependencies. It's just a bunch of blobs. There's nothing executable in the firmware port or package once installed. But yeah, and while
Okay.
it's really annoying to have to deal with these questions, the reason why I still consider BIOS build support to be important to bhyve is that we really, really don't want to force users to use grub bhyve because that has always been a hack, or the external FreeBSD bootloader for FreeBSD. And users are kind of expected to migrate their technical debt into virtual machines. So you
That's a
may
good point.
have, I don't know, that Windows 7 installation you can't change because then some software activation will break or something. Or even older crap, maybe a CentOS 6 machine or something. You just do a physical to virtual migration so that you can keep the
Yep, of course.
zombies
Yep.
around.
Okay, so that's a sort of a user perspective, which is a good motivator. So, and I do recall discussions of CBIOS, and that was revived, and Chuck reworked Grub to bhyve to be much newer, and it was frowned upon by Peter for reasons. And I'm having flashbacks here to when Peter was giving, say, Jason Tubner like the Thursday 3 p.m. build that fixes this one issue so he can get back up and running. And it's like, well, this has been a problem for years. So,
So the problem with grub to bhyve, no matter how up to date the grub version is, that it is the wrong model to have the bootloader be a host executable.
that's a good point.
Uh, Same for the external FreeBSD bootloader. And I don't even know if that was ever moved off the fourth code and is now supporting the Lua. But here again, yes, I guess technically with if you capsicamize it correctly and set up some other sandboxing stuff, you can probably make it not a complete security nightmare, but it's
Okay,
still really annoying to manage if some of
correct.
your configuration lives on the host.
Save it for the security call someday. While we have Dan, do you have a brief synopsis of package source images?
Yeah. When you create a native zone in SmartOS,
Hmm.
you have to give it a image, which is actually it's true for all zones in it's all true for all zones in SmartOS. You have to give it an image for hardware VM zones. It's like, a ZFS snapshot with raw disk on it with a, pre-installed distribution.
Oh, sorry.
Um, so hold on, where was I? Oh yeah, no. So yeah, and those for native zones, those are based on package source releases, long-term support releases,
Hmm.
24.4, 21.4, going all the way back to 15.4. And you can install a 15.4 zone and modulo maybe your version of SmartOS, the platform image, the kernel and friends. If that's too big, we have this trick called SmartOS Retro, where we bhyve an older SmartOS platform image, and then your native zone goes in there. And it's enough turtles all the way down. You can
Goodness.
get to an old enough environment where you could, in theory, run GCC 4.8 and do that.
Okay.
The larger Triton Data Center project requires that for a couple of its components currently.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that is, do you think you can regularly join or periodically? Because we generally have
Periodically, yes.
fantastic.
All of us in Illumos land are up to our eyeballs in either Illumos stuff or dollar day job or
Of course.
can't. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and it's like, why can't we get more people? Because we can't afford it or whatever. So it's just crazy. Yeah, and a lot of the Illumos talent too is at Oxide. So they are, I mean, they're open, but they have a whole hardware product to support. So they are also keeping very busy. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. And welcome, David. So that said, does anyone have any other comments on EDK2, Illumos, and that hot topic, because I assume, Dan, you need to get moving at some point soon.
I can add something about BIOS support or CSM support.
Yes, please.
So
yes, Hans.
a couple of years ago, I was working on video BIOS stuff, if you remember.
Yes.
And very recently, I have been asked by someone who said they have a virtual machine that needs BIOS functionality and especially video BIOS support, which is tied to the whole classic PC BIOS thing.
Yes, sir.
And they can't migrate it to bhyve for exactly that reason. So I think that ZBIOS is probably a very reasonable way to move forward and get away from the old UEFI CSM firmware, which is stuck in 2022 or even older. Joe, it's just work and it needs to be done, and it needs someone to fund it.
Well, and I believe
So maybe they
that
will do it. You asked me about it, but maybe not.
I think IX Systems had CBIOS working during the FreeNAS 10 days, but that was a very long time ago. So for what it's worth, that was a thing. So the hooks are out there, and I every few years find a repo sitting out there.
I
So
really
okay.
wonder when Theano Core moved away from supporting CSM. Was it just that they ripped out CSM? Or did they completely remove any possibility of loading a CSM? Because in the end, it can't just be, if I understand correctly, how
They removed any possibility. The CSM code is gone.
It is gone. Okay.
Yeah, but can you load any other CSM module if you have one? That's the question. Can you use a modern UEFI firmware and load a CSM module in it?
Oh, wait. That.
Because that in turn could be CBIOS or something.
You
like
give me
that.
a good idea. I'm gonna try extracting a CSM module from my own BIOS, the
Amen.
American Megatrans one, and just running it on EDK2.
Well, that's definitely something that we could try.
Definitely not going to be redistributable, but
Alexei has done some great work on firmware extraction.
The latest CSM module from the latest UEFI build that we have that still works, and try to just put this as a binary into the new builds. If I understand the architecture of EDK2 correctly, it's really very modular. It's a little OS in itself. You can load modules on programs. Maybe you can even run them from the EFI boot partition or something. Who knows?
yeah, every .EFI program is it's a program.
Right.
And EFI is an OS with its own C library.
I mean, when you say BIOS, you usually think about the part that initializes the virtual hardware in this case and gives you a setup menu and all that kind of stuff. But that's really only a very small part of it. The more interesting part are the whole little BIOS services, as they called it, the basic input-output system that's been there since the original IBM PC. And is, and in the end, it's just a bunch of interrupt vectors that do stuff.
So think about how we can all facilitate your investigation in that beyond simple encouragement. So let's not take too much time here, but those are exactly the right questions, be it about the software provenance and can we load one with the other? And for example, can you aim EDK2 at any CBIOS produced components to be determined? Thank you both for investigating. And let's shift gears just for a moment, circle back if we need to. But Hans, it sounds like your VirtIO SCSI reviews are not getting much attention on FreeBSD, even though they've landed in Illumos thanks to Dan McDonald's help. The link is in the doc. Everyone, whoever's listening, please give that a look. That's promising code, and it's shared between these two great OSs.
Oh, yeah.
I was just the IA reviewer for it. There are people who did real code review work. You'll see it in the credits on the commits.
Excellent. Okay, so
that was Andy and Robert mostly, as usual.
Cool.
And if Corbin has started review on some of the BSD commits a while ago, Mark Johnson did. It's
Excellent.
apparently
Oh,
they well Ed pinged Corvin. That did I see? So thanks, Ed.
fantastic. Okay, well, quality over quantity is just fine. Um, while we have Lumos folks within reach, I've been spending way too many hours on FreeBSD ARM64 and coming up with some pretty good stuff and some okay reports. But in the course of that, I grabbed the uh, OmniOS Branch, which was at Branch in Welsh, I believe you said. I gave their image a try, and I then thought, oh no, let me try what I thought was a rather different ARM64 gate image. And I went through first trying to build it in a VM and had some issues. Then I tried it on real hardware and then came up with this pretty consistently. And there's some comments here about what may have made it angry. And in passing before the start of this, and there's a register question, I did what I could to help by providing a CPI dump on the host. Oh, so this conversation has expanded in the last little bit. So, uh, Lumos folks, where do I find a dump file? I was not sure, and I heard it in passing very briefly.
My 1:07 p.m. post on the chat over here, var crash vm dump dot number.
Got
If a
it.
kernel
Thank you so
panics, it
much.
should dump there, unless like dump atom isn't configured and things like that. Distros may vary a little. In SmartOS, we have it in var crash volatile.
Oh, here we go.
But
Found it.
vm dump dot number is the one thing you want to get and share, unless there's sensitive information in it.
Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Luckily, this is purely a lab machine. And do you think that's enabled by default on OmniOS?
I hope
Hope
so.
so. Exactly.
Yeah, I run OmniOS on my home server, but I run stable, so it doesn't
Sure.
panic. Yeah. But yeah, it'll yeah. If it's not there, you'll need to make sure a dump device is configured. That can be a zvol, and you'll need to
Okay.
make sure that the dump atom command is happy. So hold on. All Lumoses share this. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Uh,
It's section 8 in the manual.
Section 8.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Dump AVM. Cool. I'm booting that machine next to me and let's see what it does. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll have an answer there. Command. So anyway, watch this space and I do see a discussion going on there in the
Yep.
conversation. So I will gladly provide whatever, artifacts would help. Cool. Debian works great under ARM64 bhyve. FreeBSD works great. I've not, it raises a question about some kind of frame buffer for, I guess, UEFI hypothetically, so we could have, say, Windows and stuff being a little easier, unlike the super good old days of having to have RDP pre-configured and YOLO. Boom. So anyway, I'll keep sharing things as I learn. Uh, I- Andrew, if you're listening, Hedinger, Gordon Ross can answer Sif's question for yesterday's conversation on OpenZFS about a panic you're seeing relating to ACLs. So that said, to what started all this, Dan, you've had an issue with an NVIDIA card and it throws out this.
Yeah, well, no, yeah. So it's okay. Let me try and make sure I explain this correctly. One of my
Please.
colleague, one of my colleagues wanted to pass a giant NVIDIA GPU into a guest. Couldn't do it with one until I fixed that piece in PCI emo.c to basically raise that mem size bigger. I can provide more information about the bars later and things like that. He then tried it again with two of them, and then we started noticing stuff in our VMM code, which is very different from your VMM code because, well, it's kernels. Your kernel may vary, terms and conditions apply. So, but I wanted to at least put that little bit of diff into people's heads in case people more familiar with PCI emulation and bhyve go, oh gosh, no, 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 you got to do other things to make sure that will work consistently. I that was the band-aid. A real fix would be helpful. If anybody looks at that and goes, "Oh, I know exactly what to do there," please share with the class. Otherwise, I suspect I'll be looking into this um, later this month, next month, if somebody doesn't beat me to it already, or somebody will. It might not be me, it might be someone else. But yeah, my day job would love to be able to pass through 4 GPUs of that size into a single guest.
Duly noted. I
Yep.
sure hope that can get into the right hands and
Yep.
sounds good. Okay, moving
Yeah.
on. We're powering
Thank you.
through.
Mhm.
To whom it may concern, Emil has a VirtIO review and it's in recent meeting minutes. And I think Jan, you brought this up. There is a VirtIO VSOC review, or it's becoming one, and I think they were called off to obligatory service. So watch this space. Uh, Jan, any Kasiber news? I know you brought it up last week with Ed and company.
I think it was just for jail stuff because I don't know
Got
why
it.
you would combine Kasiba with bhyve unless you try to run
Jail
bhyve
beehive.
in a jail.
Bingo. That said, but Dan, over in Joint, Triton Land, do you have a meaningful beehive test suite? That came up in a recent discussion. What we found is a propolis
Mostly
test runner, but that sounds very oxidey.
that is, yeah, but okay. If you know, Propolis is their replacement for
A
userland
front end,
Beehive.
yeah, sure.
Yep. No, it's the userland stuff. Our test suite in Illumos covers all VMME things. User
Ah,
source test Beehive, it's called.
huh.
Um, yeah. No.
User
Hold on.
source tests or something.
No. Yeah, and your distro may vary about
Hmm.
how to run that, but I'm gonna let me type a little in there under that. Okay, hold on. Mhm.
Yeah, just enlighten us.
Yeah, hang on. Sorry.
I
So the
have no answer.
source, yep. And I hope I typed that right. Uh, test yeah, Beehive tests with an S. Okay, good.
Beehive. Okay,
Uh-huh.
cool.
Mhm.
Sweet.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you. If we can bring some of that into FreeBSD, amen. I've been looking at the OpenZFS test suite, and it needs to be easier, more flexible, and reproducible. Alexei, what did you find in trying to build EDK2
I'm trying to build it. For some
2025-11?
reason,
Yes.
it's cleaning up for DTC constantly
Ew,
and slowing down the clean
charming.
process a
Okay.
lot.
He has posted a graphic of that for just sheer multimedia ability. I'll throw it in there. Okay. Oh, and I don't know if the KVM unit tests would be useful to all of us, but hey, there they are. I'll put this under file me. Okay. Oh, Hazem did not join, but discovered that musil-libc has issues under bhyve, say Alpine with it. I know Antranik had some interest in that. It would be great to have the simplest little test suite to just say, hey, I want to tickle these parts of libc. Am I bhyve friendly? And I don't know if the Linux test suite would help us do that, but I did find some links on how to create a Alpine cheroot that you could, in theory, throw a Linux compatibility jail at. And I think I even put an issue on the Foundation Ideas page, but watch this space. I know there are people who want that, but I'm not the probably at all ideal person to investigate further, such that, hey, if someone wants to exercise the FreeBSD Linux compatibility under a jail with a musil-libc based FreeBSD distro, please do so. And yes, that's a zones/jails question, but hey, so somehow made it to the document here because he joined the call. Anything relating to that? Any questions, any ideas, any thoughts? Anyone want to try it? Cool. Moving on. This could be related, and that I think is on that topic. So I will move your graphic when the time comes. What else do we have here? Thank you, Ed, about searching the bhyve bugs by date. And yes, some of them are older than when they were last tickled. I am battling with just weird stuff on ARM64, which brought up Bluetooth and net graph dependencies, and I'll worry about that. John, I don't know if it made it to review. I think it did. Antranig has posted a CPU pinning tooled front end adjustment to not have to do like 60 steps. And I think it's in the previous call. If you're still on the call, you may find that rather
Yeah, I'm here.
interesting.
I'm
Great,
here.
welcome. And I'll scroll down
I
to
can go look at it and poke.
Any search of pinning should find that as I do a quick look here. Anyway, it's in the recent doc. John, any cool news? Any progress on your nifty libNFS base
No,
bhyve plumbing and stuff? Okay.
no, not really. I'm just listening. I'm per the comments about the UEFI EDK2. I fall into the camp of I keep many binary blobs around. I keep multiple. I hate to say this, but I keep multiple Linux systems around so that I have the ability to build things if they need to be rebuilt. Every comment that I've heard in here is absolutely correct. The build process is amusing, to say the least, and trying to figure out the appropriate dependencies for any given version to get it to build correctly is fun. I appreciate the work being done on the large, I'll use the term large NVIDIA GPUs. I've been down that road a little bit and have how do I phrase this? Was outvoted from above me in the chain of command, and we now run multiple of these large GPUs on under Linux as the hypervisor.
Straight to
Never
bare.
able to
Yeah,
get
they
never.
straight bare metaled you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
They straight to bare metaled you. I'm sorry about that.
Well, they're using Linux as the hypervisor, and the GPUs are getting passed through,
Oh,
and it works quite well. It would definitely be nice if we could be at the same place.
okay.
You heard it here.
On the other hand, I would say I saw some of the. I'm sure I missed it because I haven't been here for a while, but the 9P FS work that I've seen go in has that's been nice to look at.
Yeah.
In my opinion, 9PFS is a cute hack, but cannot provide significantly better semantics than an NFS mount because it just isn't a native POSIX file system protocol. It is for Plan 9 after all.
I cannot disagree with you. However, from a management perspective, when they come up with a piece of paper and it says, we have to check off these items off the checklist,
Yeah.
That
Totally
helps
right.
tremendously.
And I'm not arguing that it isn't useful. It's great for something like, oh, I need a shared directory for this and that, some spool directory, some file exchange between virtual machine and host. Especially in a more like desktop hosting where this user's so needs a directory between virtual machine and host. It works perfect for that. But the VirtIO FS is what would really enable us to, within bhyve, to just have a file system which behaves basically like a normal POSIX file system, but is a directory on the host. Because it uses the Fuse protocol, which, yeah.
And that came up recently, and I believe Emil is working on various IOFS components. in recent history there. So that said, and lots of good stuff going on, but we almost need some policy level guidance here and consensus on things like EDK2, you name it. I am at a minimum ridiculously happy that we vocalize these topics to help others chime in, join in, and hopefully come up with some answers.
I realized
Who has other
why one of
topics?
the bug
Yes,
reports. Wait,
yes, please.
I realized why one of the bug reports was filed. I apparently removed binary shim, like a binary assignment there
Mm-hmm.
in my patch, and I haven't even noticed that.
Ah, and is that this report?
Yeah, it is this one.
Cool.
Scroll to the comment 10.
Comment. Scrolling down randomly to work. 7, 8, 10. Okay, scrolling back up to 10.
I accidentally removed
Oops.
the archive that R equals the freebies DR.
Got it.
I removed that accidentally.
Okay, well, that should have been caught in review, but it sat there languishing for months, and here we are. Well, at least you found that better late than never. Do think about a policy on how far back we keep, given that there will always, I think consensus is there will always be surprises from EDK2, and we don't know what shape or color they will be in. So, cool. Thanks for looking into that and following the report. Dan, for what it's worth, on Illumos ARM64, it's the VM that panics. So I guess I'll try to open up the VM and take a look if it has var crash, but the host doesn't have anything because, hey, the host didn't crash. So there's that.
No.
I don't know if it got past the loader far enough to even.
It's an
have a
Illumos
meaningful
guest,
test.
right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. If it didn't get past loader, then it's a loader problem. And Tomas would know about it.
Cool. And that, fortunately, that issue has some feedback quite more recently than I looked last. Anyway,
I did see it. Yeah, cool.
Daniel, Katya, everyone else who hasn't had a moment to say something or ask a question or complain about something or whatever. Any thoughts, questions, ideas?
Not for me.
None?
Great conversations today.
It's been awesome.
For sure.
Katya, are you using
Okay.
bhyve? And thanks again for presenting at bhyvecon.
Most welcome. Yeah. For sure.
Cool. Well, this is your call, not mine. I've covered the topics I'm after, and I hope they all just stay in motion and see progress, because, hey, great work, everyone. Actually, I'll do a quick search for pinning for you, John, because I was going to write you directly. Here we go. John, watch this space. Take a look at this review. It might be right up your alley. I will scroll and get a copy, and put it in chat. So take a peek.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he noticed also, and it's a bit cryptic in the notes here, but bhyve does preserve its configuration ever so briefly in memory, but then it immediately dumps it upon boot, such that all of those who come across a running VM and think, how did we get here, to quote David Byrne, that's maybe something we could better preserve. And something about pinning in the config format that's not documented. Yes, Jan?
Yeah, about pinning. Maybe add note something about how best to approach this. The problem is that, well, you can pin a bhyve vCPU thread to a specific host logical CPU, but that doesn't guarantee that there is no overload on that logical host CPU. And I was wondering, we have, I think, 2 default CPU sets in FreeBSD, one for the kernel and one for user space. And it's obviously possible to have some startup script and some cleanup script to remove a bunch of CPUs from the default sets to make them almost, except for maybe interrupts, exclusively available to the vCPU thread, but how would you go about reliably restoring the default CPU set even if bhyve crashes?
Hmm.
Um, because yeah, there is no such thing as a CPU set descriptor which would get closed and then undo some CPU set changes or something. So you can't just have the kernel undo it for you directly. Is there something which can be done to make it cleaner than just wrapping bhyve with a script and hoping that nobody ever kills the script?
Well, and related, I assume other components can make requests to the pinning such that all your assumptions go out the window on the fly, free of charge.
Okay, of course, if root just messes up your CPU sets, then yeah. But the idea would be that, oh, I need yeah, you probably want something to like using logf in your wrapper script so that it holds a log file, exclusive log on a log file while it does the CPU set changes or something, so that you can solve the read modify write problem with a log. Because yeah, if you have concurrent bhyve startups and each one of them tries to grab, let's say, 4 or 8 CPUs, then yeah, if they have run concurrently without locking, there's a chance they will claim the same host CPUs, but use
Yes,
locking.
and components completely unrelated to bhyve might also make their requests for pinning.
Yeah, there is
So
no universal uh,
the pinning
CPU
framework.
reservation protocol or pinning with
Right.
it.
So there's a couple different layers to this.
Yes, yeah, John.
And for instance, I never know exactly what kind of hardware I might be using. So for instance, do I have E cores and do I have P cores? If so, how many and how are they assigned? Um, Also, if hyperthreading is turned on, it makes a difference if you assign your bhyve V cores to which hyperthread pairs can drastically affect your
Oh
performance.
yes.
Um, and I don't know how much of that really belongs in bhyve directly. Um, but the comment was made, what if you want to reassign pinning? Um, bhyve doesn't have any type of uh, the control mechanism doesn't have any kind of processing in there unless I've totally missed it that allows you to say, hey, go in there and reassign the pinning for this V core. So I just go in there externally and reset things. Um, it's and yes, I do I have bhyve wrapped with a external script to manage pinning and CPU sets. So if bhyve dies, I undo anything that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem for me is that, yes, of course, you can manually do that. You can just put it in the configuration file, reserve a fixed number of logical CPUs and know what something does on your system, the mapping. You can read the mapping out of some sysctl on FreeBSD. I think it's kern.chat.topology or something. You get the complete topology of the CPUs as XML in the
Yeah,
sysctl.
I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't.
But
I am simply saying that from my perspective, what I deal with, I have many different types of systems, so I have many different types of requirements for the how the pinning will be done.
yep, I would
And
say that
that
Let him
knowledge
finish.
doesn't really belong in bhyve.
no.
It needs to come from an external source. Whether that could be a tool that we could have living next to bhyve is possible.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, what I would want by default is to give the CPU both hyperthreads of the guest, both hyperthreads of the physical CPU core, just because of the interaction between uh, hyperthreads. And then the other thing is probably you want to minimize the number of that's performance domains you cross. So basically keep everything in one compute cluster or cache hierarchy level. So you really don't want a virtual machine to span different CPU sockets if you have a multi-socket server.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
We haven't
it's
even discussed
some
NUMA
kind of
domains.
packing problem here. Yeah, not that dissimilar to what a memory allocator has to deal with. And I think you can come up with fairly general optimization rules which are not hard to solve because you have three, maybe in extreme cases, four level of cache hierarchy plus the CPU socket, and on some CPUs, maybe an internal split as well. So you kind of can enumerate groups of logical CPUs on the host which could kind of stay together. And you then try to assemble as many as close as possible. And yeah, it's a very simple optimization problem. Of course, it's not always a solvable problem because yeah, if you can create fragmentation, and in the bhyve configuration you can't fix that. You could externally change the affinity as root of the to migrate the pinning, because what happens under the hood is that you setting the affinity of a POSIX thread really just sets the CPU set of that thread to a single logical host CPU. And you can externally modify that, and you can use proc.cs to inspect that so that you can get a mapping. Because bhyve is kind enough to name the threads, you can get a nice mapping from vCPU to CPU set.
Sure. It is also worth noting that bhyve generates threads that are not direct vCPUs.
Exactly.
And
You have
we
VM
need
event
to
thread and VIO threads.
we use procstat. We go out and get those, and then we pin those appropriately too.
Yeah, you probably don't want to give them a whole CPU each because they're mostly I/O bound.
Mm-hmm.
John, that was threads that are what?
I understand. I understand. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
John,
Michael.
you said bhyve generates threads that are not what? Be it
They're not
associated?
vCPU threads. If you do a procstat
Okay.
on a bhyve process, you'll see them. It's obvious.
Got it. And John, did you see Boyan's NUMA work where you can prototype a NUMA system with bhyve?
Yes.
Cool. Is it useful to you in any way?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground and we have a lot of minds. Alexei, I know you were dozing off. Did you discover anything more in building EDK2 and, for example, why it's cleaning the heck out of DTC?
I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough. That's a valid technical response. Okay, others? Anything else?
I have my annual Windows question. If
Yes,
anybody,
sir. Please, what you got, Daniel?
So VirtIO, block and SCSI and all that stuff. I just never use it anymore because the NVMe driver's so nice. And works so well. So I haven't been using that, but I still, of course, use the VirtIO net driver for, and there was always a bit of a dance between which particular version of the Fedora driver kit was safe to use, because one of them would cause the VirtIO block to die. And so I never know, and I don't think I've ever received a definitive answer on this. Like, is it safe to install always the latest version of the the Fedora Red Hat KVM net driver? Like, should we go all the way, or is there a particular version we're supposed to use, or what are we supposed to do with that? Because because I've suffered whatever six years of bhyve now. Um, I'm a little uncertain about, whether you use the latest, the not the latest, and etc.
Oh, you mean
And
like
is there a
EDK2?
definitive
Which the heck
person?
one do we run? Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's
Okay.
yeah. What's do we have? Is there a board of directors? Are there beehive gods we can ask? Like, what do I do? How do I choose?
There's this troll under a bridge in Nebraska, and I think you just ask it on Thursdays at 3 p.m. and it's like, oh yeah, you want this version or something. So,
This does not this does not directly answer the question, and I do not know the set of circumstances you're dealing with on your hypervisors. But if you can use virtual functions off of any of your network cards, you may be quite happy with that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Whenever I can, I absolutely do. Yeah, no doubt about it. We've been converting some old ones that haven't been using it to use it, and we try to, and we try to take advantage of that, 99% of the time. The thing is, for ephemeral VMs, for spin up and test type things, it's picking a virtual device from a pool, making sure the pool's available, et cetera, adds an extra half step to the VM spin up, and that's when we use the virtual ones. So
So you
anyway, but
you you are repeating slightly what Michael has heard me talk about before. The FreeBSD virtual function support is what I consider to be static. And if you were to jump over to the Linux side, the virtual function process is dynamic.
that's a
And
problem then.
if we could support a similar methodology to what they do on the Linux side, it would make what you just said massively easier. And this is a problem I've been dealing with for at least 6 years now, six,
We
7 years.
Yeah.
abstract it in our Mac layer. It's a little higher latency, but you can take a single NIC and just give it as many instances as you'd like.
Yeah, but we don't have Project Crossbow or Fire Engine underneath.
Yeah. It's Crossbow that matters here, not Fire Engine.
I think Fire Engine is, if I understand what the white paper correctly, it is quite important because it allows the Crossbow to treat every NIC as a collection of queues and ports so that it can efficiently
I
create the
worked on
VM.
Sun TCP/IP back in the day. Fire Engine was all about getting the TCP/IP stack to behave with some of the abstractions from Crossbow. The virtual network instantiation, VNICs, are completely under the umbrella of Crossbow.
Didn't that involve a new kind of driver API so that the
Yeah,
layers of
GLD, the generic land driver version 3, which
yeah,
was a predecessor to Crossbow. And
okay.
that unlocked Fire Engine and Crossbow.
Okay, so I didn't get it completely wrong.
That's okay.
So we
No,
have
just read the white
we
papers.
have go ahead, John. John.
I was
Yeah,
jumping
I
in.
just read the white papers. I don't have practical experience with it. I've used it a few years ago for an experiment, and then found it neat, but too far into my BSD experience. So
Quick point of order, John, please look at that link to the Jails call where Jan has kindly untangled a bunch of um, issues surrounding the VirtIO, what is it, the virtual functions on Intel and Chelsea O cards, and he and Rod worked out a few things just Tuesday. So take a peek,
yeah,
right up your alley. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the
I can
Chelsea cards
update.
are my favorite card to use for VF.
Yeah. So what I found out there is that using the virtual functions via SR-IOV for jails with VNet has the limitations that for some reason the router advertisements are not received within the VNet jail.
Yep, we covered that beautifully, and I'll get the recording up shortly. Any news on it, or wait on that with
While
that?
talking with Rod, it suddenly started working without any reason. Then I rebooted the system after upgrading to 15.0 patch level 3, and now it doesn't work, just like before. The strange thing is the Chelsea-specific virtual interfaces, those work with correctly when it comes to multicast IPv6 traffic.
John, are you running V6?
No.
Got it. Anyway, check out that
V4 works
document
perfectly fine.
and upcoming recording. They made some breakthroughs, is my point. But in the big picture, you mentioned we would like to have dynamic handling of those virtual functions. I recall you not being able to move MAC addresses along with machines.
Yeah. Well,
Still an issue.
as an example, it would be nice, for instance, if I do an if config of, CXL1, it would be nice if the if config command would show me all of the virtual function devices that are currently partitioned off of CXL1. Um, it would be nice if, whether it's the if config command or a modification of IOV CTL, I don't care, but it would be really nice if I can go in and say, okay, on the CXL device, on CXL1, on the 0th virtual function device, I would like to set the MAC address to, ABCD, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, we basically have to, set something with IOV CTL and then go with it. So it's very, very static.
Yep. You only get the mapping between CXL physical functions and virtual functions via DMES. I think that
really?
tells you what the host nexus is and so on. So you may find that mapping in dev info.
Well,
But
what I do is I run out with a PCI conf -L and I grab the address of the parent network card I'm looking at, and then I look at the PCI addresses to see which devices are children of the which VFs are children of the parent, so that I can do this, so I can at least figure out assignments onto which VFs go to which NIC. Right? I have, let's say I have four 100 gig ports on a box, and I have 16 VFs per port. I need to map them, assign them, and keep track of them. And it's
yeah,
not straightforward. It's
I just ran.
pretty painful on FreeBSD.
Are
I
you saying
just
the
ran.
information is there, but it's just not easily accessed and collated?
I'm just going to say yes.
Okay, cool. Yep, fine.
The information is always there. It's, whether it's in a context you can access it and use it, modify it, do what you need
Sure.
is always the question.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, you get the information in something like var run dmest.boot. Or at runtime you can get it at
Yeah.
out of devctl, but I don't see the mapping between NIC port and VFs. I know which card the VF, but if I have multiple cards, then yeah, that works. But if I want to know which of my ports on my card that virtual function belongs to, the devs ETL output is not really informative. And the real world problem John brought up is that you cannot reconfigure just a single virtual function. So, for example, if you want to pin the MAC address of an untrusted bhyve guest so that it cannot spoof its MAC address via the SR-IOV pass-through device,
I
then
want to make sure I understand, because you're saying something can't be done. It can be done. It cannot be done with FreeBSD.
Yes, it can be done with FreeBSD's current APIs. It can technically be done. It's just that you, as a user in FreeBSD, you can't do it right now because FreeBSD does not expose that hardware functionality to user space.
That I agree with.
That's what I meant with it can't be done right now. The only way to do it is, I think, if you try to reconfigure it, it will just tell you, sorry, the device is busy, so you have to deconfigure the physical device and then reconfigure it, which means you have to stop all the virtual machines using the pass-through devices.
Not just the one, but all of them.
All of them using that NIC,
Great.
which, yeah, is maximally disruptive.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I will post some output from a Linux box. I know this is a FreeBSD
Well, it's a Unix
discussion.
call.
So,
Drop it in there if you will, straight to the dock, please, and I'll format it as needed.
well, I'm trying to.
Sweet.
Did it work?
I don't know. It's a computer.
Why is it not working? Huh. Why will it not let me do that?
Or chat or wherever.
From a short look at the FreeBSD code, it looks like this use case is just not in scope for the API, because the API is just send a big NV list with the whole configuration to the driver. Unless you get a driver to compute the diff between the running configuration and the desired configuration, and then carefully converge to the new running configuration. Yeah, this won't work because every driver would have to reinvent that logic, and it doesn't belong to any single driver.
Understood. So, Michael, what I posted is
it.
just some
Yep.
sample output of the IP link command. It shows you, I'm showing you the device, the network device, IXGB3, and I'm showing 4 VFs hung off of it. Now you will note this is not done by the Linux system, but that 02 followed by all zeros is an indicator that that device is not in use. And when that device is in use, I assign it a MAC address, which is then not 02.
Got it. And it's purely dynamic, correct?
Yes.
Cool. Well, a person can dream. Not in use.
And that's user set. I set that.
Cool.
And it is worth noting that there are some NICs don't actually like being set to 02 first, so you have to set them to all zeros, and then you can set them to 02. It's funny. I don't know why. I just haven't bothered to trace that down that deeply.
Cool.
Now, I'm not saying we have to duplicate what's being done here by a long shot. But it's the functionality that if we could do this, then I think it would make a big difference.
It would make your job easier, you're saying?
Just changing the default device names to something like CXL0.V0 would help.
With name CXL 0 dot. So you said like 0 for a virtual function or something, some convention or colon.
So understand that the VFs you're looking at here they're in what we refer to as pass-through mode. You can't see them on the host.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I understand you want to give them a name, but they don't exist as a upper level entity. They are children of the IXGBE3 network interface. So that's actually the second port on the second card.
Okay. So who is using this the most, be it hyperscalers, be it data centers? Who's delighted with their virtual functions and live and die by them? If we aren't.
there's a lot of, I'm unclear how to phrase this. There's a lot of documentation out there about this stuff and how to do it.
That's good to know.
It's in use.
Good, good, good.
And I've talked a little bit about this with you before, Michael, and we've been using this technology for, I don't know, 8 years. It's pretty
Excellent.
solid.
Nice. Yeah, well, and the fact that, your hardware device may give you the ultimate backplane networking for your VMs and jails is quite promising, and it does technically work, but it's just not as flexible as one would hope. It's my attempt at a synopsis.
The other, you were mentioning,
Oh, here we go.
I mentioned that I like to use Chelsea cards.
You're not
And
alone. Yeah.
one of the interesting items is this syscontrol, or this that setting. I don't know how many people are aware of this. Most of your NICs that implement VFs, they have a internal V switch or E switch, depending on what the vendor calls it.
Because they don't trust the OS to do the right thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Actually, I didn't mean to say that
Yeah,
out loud.
I totally get it.
Well, I think that was the
But
punchline from Jan's discoveries the other day. So go
yeah,
ahead. It's like,
that syscontrol allows the hypervisor to talk directly to the VMs through the V switch.
I found
That's under
that
the CXG.
sysctl.
It's
It
under
also
sysctls
exists
for the CXGB man page.
You can even set it per virtual interface if they're not in pass-through mode, and for the virtual interfaces while they're administratively down. So you have to do app config interface name down, then you can change your sysctl, whatever you want, and then you set it to up again.
Yeah, as a matter, I actually have that in the loader.conf for whatever it's worth, Michael. Here,
yep.
I'll give you a
Okay.
slightly better,
Cool.
whatever. There you go.
Cool. And thank you, Dan, for examples on Illumos. I'll grab maybe the first snippet of each.
Yeah.
I trust you have warm cookies and a mint on your pillow with your networking.
Define warm cookies and a mint.
Oh, in many of these conversations, we end up with, well, Crossbow solves about 90% of the problems we are having.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
In my case, yes, I do have that.
Okay.
I don't run any HVMs on my home server currently. That might change, but right now I don't.
Got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will just grab some of these. Step one is discussing it.
Yep.
And again,
And the
John,
key lab VNIC is over an Ether stub. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I have a home network and a work network, and they kind of need to talk to each other, but I want them going through an actual router.
Reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to bridge them?
Nope, no, I don't.
Funny that. Okay, well, I think our level of productivity is reducing. You've got blogs for it?
Yep, cool. I'll put up a tag.
Sure, sweet. Okay, anything else, or shall we quit while we're ahead?
Sorry to take your time, folks.
No, not. This is your call, not mine. You're doing great, and you've had some invaluable information. And yes, Jan.
I fought the FreeBSD netboot code last night and learned some things about the state of our PXE bootloader I didn't care to learn. Turns out it's really primitive, and the exponential back off is implemented in multiples of 1 second.
Funny you mentioned that. I was talking to Zai just last night, and he was looking at documenting the section 7 of PXE in the manual pages, and it was also mildly horrifying. So let's maybe make a point next week or between now and then to discuss where we're at. Everyone will simultaneously scratching their heads or making noises. What was the back office thing you mentioned, or back something? What's your synopsis on what upset you the most? Oh, thank you for that blog, Dan. Jan, what was the most concerning thing you discovered? Or you muted. No worries. Anyway. Okay, thank you
So
for that
something?
link.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, my whole blog's there. That's a tag relating to my home server and its
Okay.
history.
Nice. Okay, Dan, home server blog. Dan, home server blog. Awesome. Okay, well, I say we quit while we're ahead. There's a fantastic discussion with lots of things to follow up on. So everyone, please do your part, and I will jump in and say, hey, Daniel Bell, would you like the honors?
Like and subscribe.
Thank you,
Like and
Alex.
subscribe.
I did the honors
redundancy.
myself.
Excellent. No, redundancy is good. Good work, everyone. Go team. Have a great weekend.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.